We will call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. This is the regular council meeting of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in council chambers at 216 Main Street West, Waterford, Manitoba, this 10th day of January 2023 at 7 p.m. Present tonight, myself, Bill Gade, councillors Brian Burick, Carrie Blosha, Byron Zbirun, Brad Kushniryk, Terry Neely, and Raymond McGregor. Interim CAO Pat Ellingson is with us, and videographer Jeremy Bergen is here as well. We have no absences tonight, so we're going to skip to item number 2 on the agenda, adopting the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting held at Council Chambers of Swan Valley West on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023, be accepted as presented unless anybody wishes to make some changes. Does anyone have changes they wish to make? Not hearing any, we'll go for presented. A mover, please. Councillor Burick, a seconder. Councillor Neely. Any further discussion on the resolution? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Item 3, we show we're going to adopt minutes tonight, but we're having a technical issue with bringing those minutes up, so we're going to skip past that. Item 4.1, the rural lead hand report was to be delivered here in person, but he contacted us shortly before the meeting and said he was unable to attend. Do you have his report?
I just checked and...
No. He indicated he'd be sending a written report in its place, but it hasn't arrived. So we'll check for that a little later on during the meeting if we take a break and get back to that one. We'll skip ahead all the way to general business, item 7.1. Resolved that in accordance with subsection 365(2) of the Municipal Act, the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West is hereby declare 2022 the designated tax year and require all properties in arrears for the year 2021 or prior, including penalties and interest, to be sold at tax sale. And be it further resolved that tax service shall be retained to manage the tax sale process. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Blosha, a seconder, please. Councillor Neely beat you to it by 2 seconds. Discussion on this resolution. This is a resolution we pass each year. We're required by the Act to declare the tax sale date if we wish to proceed with a tax sale. So this allows us to do that. There was some information provided there with the resolution from tax service, kind of giving some updates on sale dates. We're going to let them tell us when the sale date will be, and then we'll let everybody know. We're not going to put it in the resolution because they haven't set a sale date for us yet. They do ask in there that we make sure we send a warning letter to people ahead of time that their taxes are due and it's time to pay or you'll go to tax sale. There's a fairly substantial cost if it goes to tax sale, or several $100s is added on even for the first step of tax sale. Do you know if we've sent that letter?
We have not.
Okay, so would it be agreeable for administration we pass this tonight but we don't proceed until that letter's gone and give people a little bit of time?
Yes.
So I think we'd all be fine even if that delays our tax sale a couple weeks to make sure the warning letter gets out. Councillor Neely?
It's not usually in October, the tax bill.
This is the beginning of that process.
Mm-hmm. And once it gets there, once it gets to them, then they can't take it back. Like you said, the costs add on, and those have to be paid by the one in arrears.
It's quite a lengthy progress.
And honestly, I think
process.
it's
I think you have to start 6
$1,000.
months ahead of time, isn't it? Something like that?
Well, for example, if you set the tax sale date in November, the last option in this letter here, we have to have all the information to them by March 15th.
Right.
And then they start going through.
Yeah.
the steps.
Any further discussion from anyone? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
Must be having supper.
Okay, good. Let's just turn that down. Item 7.2, term grader operator. So a little discussion before we read this one. Brent Gray has been working for us as an interim spare operator. He's expressed a willingness to be a full-time operator until April 1st. So his last day would probably be the 31st, but might still be the 1st. He worked for us previously as a grader operator, which is where we came with a level 4 assignment. That's what he was before. There's just 2 reasons to doing this. One is some stability for Public Works. Secondly, though, because we appoint him as a term operator, he becomes part of the union. And so that he's not taking union work away from a different union member if he's operating a grader. So that's the recommendation here is coming forward, that we hire him for this term. From talking to him, I met with him the other day. He wants to do this, but he's interested in being a spare again after the 1st of April, but he isn't interested in grading all summer. So we'll still need to look for somebody, but it buys us a couple months of an operator.
So we do have plans of
We need
trying
to-
to find
we need
another
another
full-time operator,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Because we need 4 full-time.
And we're gonna have 5 graders. We're gonna have at least 4 guys.
We better have at least 4. Be it resolved that Brent Gray be hired as a full-time grader operator until April 1st, 2023, and assigned level 4 on the operator scale. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Burick, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. Any further discussion on it? If not, those in favor? That's carried. Seven three, water operator training. We should probably discuss this for a moment too. This came up at our last meeting. Council was short a few members last meeting, so we didn't make decisions on a bunch of things. Some of it we pushed to tonight, just to make sure everybody was here, so we had everybody's input. We've been discussing water operator training and who to train. So I was checking into the courses. There are online correspondence courses available. There are test dates as late as into March currently announced, but more tests get announced every few months. So we can have the option of putting someone into the training program basically anytime on self-study. They study themselves, then once they feel confident, they go and write the exam. It does cut down on cost for us a little bit. The course is the same price as if we send them, but we don't have to keep them in Winnipeg for a week in hotels. So we end up sending them, some of the tests are actually in Brandon. So we could conceivably end up sending somebody to Brandon on a day trip to do the exam, or even just one overnight stay rather than being overnight for a week. So it's somewhat advantageous. Councillor
What
Neely.
do those courses cost?
So they're about $800 each, and there's 4 of them. The exams are another $250 each. So by the time we're done, course fees, call it $5,000.
$5,000.
Yeah. We discussed at the last meeting 3 different people as options. The name that you see in front of you is the leading one if we'd only do one, but there was certainly discussion of training more than one. We just thought we'd get the process kicked off with getting at least one person started into it. How is the feel of the group on the name that's there? Are you okay with that? To do training for that? If you're not, we'll discuss it in camera and leave this until after the in-camera session. Want to leave it till
I
after
don't really
in-camera?
know them, so I can't say too much.
Okay, up to you. I'm perfectly fine to move this to in-camera. I just,
Maybe move it to in camera.
okay, so we'll do that. We're gonna change that. Give me 2 seconds and I'll just bop it to the in-camera. And it'll disappear here. That's going to become 1312. Somebody's phone. Okay. Oh, this. Okay. We'll take a break in a bit. 7-4 then. Advertising for building inspector position. So council at our previous meeting chose not to renew the contract of the current building inspector, which leaves us without a building inspector. We therefore need to advertise for one. Be it resolved that we advertise for the position of building inspector in the Swan Valley Star and Times and on the Swan Valley West Facebook page. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor, you're on this list there, Kushniryk. Seconded by Councillor McGregor. Further, I should note, I did check to see what qualifications are required. This might shock you slightly. Manitoba has no mandatory qualifications for a part-time building inspector. So there are training courses available to certify them, but there's no requirement for them to be certified. So the question I asked was, if we just waited for the next random person to walk by on the street and called them our building inspector, can we do that? And they said, well, we don't recommend it, but you can do it. So obviously we're looking for someone with some experience and such, but there is no specific course you have to have ahead of time to be a part-time building inspector. which surprised me. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 7.5, animal control reports. One of these you'll see a locked button beside, so that particular animal control report is only visible to council because it contains the name of a person in there that shouldn't be public. The urban animal control officer report is sanitized to that, so it is available to the public. Be it resolved, we accept the rural and urban animal control officers' reports for December 2022 and approve payments for the services provided. A mover, please. Councillor Blosha. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Have you folks had a chance to look at those reports? Is there any questions on the reports or any other discussion? Kind of sideways? Might be my fault, possibly.
There's a way to turn it.
How do you rotate it?
There's a button for that.
Like this. Now it's still sideways.
You're better off like this.
I'll have to ask Tracy to show me. She'll show me.
Hearing no discussion, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried.
That's a good one.
It's okay, we're learning. It's okay.
Item 7.6, Durban shop electrical. There's a quote attached here from a vendor. Let's pull a quote up because I think we probably will discuss this a bit before we get into resolution. This stems from the safety committee concerns they had. So in the Swan River shops, there's a problem with the exit sign. The light keeps going out. So this is a quote to install a new exit sign for $649.13 for each sign required, and there may be 2 required. For the Durban shop, run a new circuit for the HRV, which is the air exchanger. Install the humidistat that's been sitting there for a couple of years in a box. At current, the air exchanger is either on or off with a switch. So if they turn it on, it's on until they turn it off, which isn't necessarily what we would prefer for energy savings.
And there was a plug-in they wanted moved to, right?
Yes, so the current plug-in for the thing, the plug-in is shared between the air exchanger and the DEF pump. And so the idea here is to make it so the DEF pump has its own plug-in that's separate from the air exchanger. So the air exchanger does its thing and the DEF pump is plugged in a normal, safe way without using extension cords and ladders.
Yeah, ladders, that
Yeah,
was his,
ladders was
that
the
was
big
his
concern.
big beef.
I know Councillor Kushniryk wanted to speak on this a little bit.
More or less, I just feel like we could maybe get a few more quotes on it.
That's what I was
Not just a single quote. So maybe, I guess, table it till another go around.
Are we good with tabling this
Yep.
and asking administration for more quotes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we should
at
have
least
2 or 3
would be
quotes
better.
likely.
Yeah, there's multiple electricians around.
Oh,
so
I
maybe-
agree, more quotes. Yeah.
Okay, the item is tabled. Let's move this to where it should be. Sorry, we're still getting used to our system here. Okay, so 7.6 I think was an error. It should be in section 8, so I moved it down there for the firefighter wages. So we're gonna move to section 8, financial items. 8.1 general checks. I have the checks here. And you have a listing of them on your screen. So let's read the resolution and then we shall entertain some discussion. Be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 18522 to 18552, the amount of $89,516.93. Is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Kushniryk, and a seconder, please. Second by Councillor Neely. So let's open it up with questions about checks. Who has questions? Don't all go at the same time.
Trying to find them. Nope. There we go, it's on there twice.
The second check, 18524 ABC Fire and Safety. This is $2,604. This is the charger and battery pack for the
Jaws?
Jaws of Life, I believe, for Thunder West Fire. We have the Jaws of Life already, the battery pack and charger, we have our loaners, so we have to buy our own to go with it and give the loaners back. Other things of note on the list. Let's go to 18543 Pitney Bowes. I asked administration to look into this a bit. This indicates we're paying over $500 a month for the postage machine rental. That's not including postage, which seems strange to me. So I don't know if the check indicates it's for November to January for lease payments on the postage machine. It seems hard to believe it could be that much. Maybe it's a full year, but I just wanted us to check into this a little bit. I think we'll still pass it if that's okay with everybody, because we have the invoice for it, but if we really happen to be paying $500 a month, we need to look into why. And otherwise, perhaps this is for a full year and it's really much more economical.
Yeah, because I can see when it's when all the tax notices go out, but if
This
it's
is-
from November to January, that's not when.
Well, this includes no postage. This is only machine rental, which just
Makes no
seems
sense.
incredibly expensive.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
So we'll get someone to check that for us and just make sure we understand what it is. 18547 is for auto invoices that we received. They're for business directory listings. One of them's for Shaker City Disc Golf. Another one's for Swan Valley West, LUD of Benito. And then one for just Swan Valley West. I wanted to pull council on the idea, like, I know it's only $150, but does anyone really believe we need to be spending $150 to list ourselves on some other website when we have our own website? Like, it just seems absurd to me to spend money on this. So anybody that's searching for us on Google isn't going to this website first before they find us. Is there general thought we should cancel these listings? Would that be agreeable to the group?
What are they on again?
They're on Valley Biz. So if you go to Valley Biz and click the business listings and then click Swan Valley West, you come right back to where you would have been if you just typed in Swan Valley West. Which just seems surplus to our needs. Thoughts?
Well, we have our own website, so let's use it.
Yeah, okay. So, set that one aside and deal with that. Any other questions on checks before we deal with that check?
There's check 18530
18530, Mr.
for
Rhodes.
$1,200. What's that? Is that a month or is it several months or what is
Well,
it?
that's an interesting question. So the check indicates it's for November.
Yeah.
Attached to supporting documents though is both November and December, each of which indicated $1,200. So with the November for which we're paying, this is a list of work done. Check emails, file papers on the 2nd, on the 4th, check emails, file papers, on the 7th, check emails, file papers, on the 10th, check emails, file papers, on the 15th, check emails, file papers, on the 18th, 21st, 23rd, 25th, 28th, and 30th, check emails, file papers. And it varies. Some days that took 3 hours and some days that took 4 hours each day to do, for a total of 40 hours for $1,200. And that's, it looks to me like this check should be for $2,400. Because there's two invoices here. They just happen to be for the exact same amount and the exact same, like, you can see that, but they look kind of identical, except the date was changed at the top and each one's for $1,200. And miraculously, pretty much all the same hours every day too.
What papers?
Important ones. Cost $1,200 to file them, so they must be important. That contract was not renewed, but we did at this point have a valid contract for that, so we have to pay it. Any other questions on checks? If not, I'm going to amend our resolutions except for check 18543 which is to be cancelled.
It's 547, I thought. Or you're just looking into it? It's 547.
The postage machine.
Oh, you're looking into that?
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
cancel
543.
543.
543 is the valid bids is what I have on my
No,
sheet.
it's 547.
That's Pitney Bowes.
Oh, look on here.
On here it's
It's on
547.
here, it's 547.
547.
There's check numbers on your list.
Yeah.
One's already
Well, I
bid.
just want to make sure you had the right one.
547 is Feb.
Yeah,
Well,
but he
yeah.
just has a different number on his check.
Yeah. I've got 18543 for that check.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
should
backwards.
name the check to Swan River Valley bids.
Yeah.
And I'll have to check on that, check number business. Are you looking at the list of accounts for approval? Is that where you're getting that number, Carrie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right here,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
on page 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's scanned one. Okay, so I have a updated resolution. I'll just give you that one. You can have it. Be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 18522 to 18552 in the amount of $89,516.93, except for the check to Valley Biz, which is to be cancelled.
What was the final check number you said?
18552.
We have 18553 on here. Valley Door Systems.
I call that check 18549. We will sort that out. If something's gone wrong in the printer. Sorry, folks. Any further discussion?
So
If not,
what are we tabling this or so that we can, until we get it straightened out, or what do we
do
do?
you want to table it? We can do it at the break. We can fix those numbers.
They should be fixed, I think, eh?
As long as we know, as long as we know which one
Well,
we're
yeah, I
talking
guess so.
about.
We
he
named,
knows
we
what
named
the
who the
rest.
check is going to.
Okay.
I'm thinking, it will take a little bit of time to figure out the
Yeah.
check number because there's a thing that prints a list of accounts for approval. and
Can you
we're
word it
supposed
for
to
these vendors, not by check
put
number?
the checks that are in this
Because
batch.
once we fix it, if the check's into 5-1. Whatever the consensus is, if everybody's good with it, whatever, that's fine.
I agree.
It might change that in a little too, so maybe we should just take.
Okay, we're gonna table it. Can we get agreement from council? I'm sensing that this may not come back tonight. Are we okay with me signing the checks that we looked at so they can be
Yeah.
sent? And we'll bring
Yeah.
these back.
Yeah.
It may be next meeting before we have those numbers corrected. But we will do that. Payroll checks, I'm not showing a resolution for payroll checks tonight. That's correct, I believe.
Yeah, that's Swan's project.
Okay. Let's go to 8.3. Be resolved that the firefighter wages for the Burrito Fire Department and the Thunder West Fire Departments for July to December 2022 be approved for payment.
That's what, which number is that?
July.
8.3.
83 years indemnity, isn't it?
Try pressing F5 and it should come up because we moved some stuff around earlier. There's probably some older version on your screen. Can we get a mover for that? Councillor Blosha and a seconder? Councillor Zbirun. Do we have the idea of how much this is costing us?
Okay, close that out.
7.7.
Can I see that for a minute?
7.7 by.
Why do you have this?
Well, I like the resolutions on that side. It's good stuff.
Why don't you have?
It was better last week's time around with
Oh,
the
right here,
system.
you're right
We'll
here.
get there.
So 7, 6,
that's
7,
where-
not
this is
7.7.
He moved it
Yeah,
down.
I know, but I
Yeah,
fixed it
okay,
for you.
okay. He moved it down.
Give me a minute, man.
Good job. While we're just pulling into that list, because it doesn't, the attachment isn't here, so we can take a peek at what those wages were.
Oh, yeah.
So that will come in a second. There was, Thunder West had a substantial amount of training, which is to be expected, when it was a new department. Okay, so Bonito Fire Department,
That's the training, and this is the.
Okay, so the training for Benito Fire Department, this is with the vacation pay, everything figured out. The total is $1,017.72. The actual wages for firefighting for the same time frame, July to December, $3,676.32. And then for Thunder West, the wages for firefighting, $1,217.84. And the training for Thunder West, $4,057.56. Does anyone need any of those repeated? These particular sheets probably have confidential information on them, so I can't just give these to you. We have to look at it, we might be able to. There might not be anything here that we can't share, so if you guys want copies later, we can get you copies, I think. Of those, so you have them.
Yeah.
So if possible, later on, we'll get copies for a couple folks that want them. Any discussion on the firefighter wages? If not, call the question. Those in favor? As carried. Indemnities, 8-4. I see we're missing check numbers here. Okay, so there aren't check numbers assigned to these, so I'm just gonna update the resolution to make it look like there shouldn't be any, because these are coming, these aren't written as checks this time, this will be coming through the payroll system as per normal. Be it resolved that the council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments, indemnities for December, in the amount of $9,008.35. Is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Burick. Someone to second the resolution. Second by Councillor McGregor. Discussion on the indemnities. Councillor Blosha.
I just want to make sure that we were deducted for that one meeting.
Yes.
Okay, I was just checking. Yeah, thanks.
Is this
'Cause
gonna
we
be
can't
direct
see it.
deposit then, is that what you said there?
Yeah.
That's the goal, yeah. We're gonna attempt to direct deposit it.
And everybody's got their information now? Just
I believe we do.
checking.
Yeah, I think everybody's information's in. So this will be a bit of a trial run for us, because we can, if administration gets a chance, I'm sure they'll pop it through before payrolls do, just to make sure this is working right, and it's a good way to test the system and make sure it worked like it should.
Everybody but me, I still got my sheet here.
You know what we did? We gave you the basic
Okay,
mileage.
that's fine. I'll just bring my sheet in sometime
Next
this week.
month.
Yeah,
And, yeah, well, anything,
Yeah.
anything that we didn't get on this one,
yeah, no problem.
we'll just add on the next
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, those in favor? That's carried. Budget 2023. So we're beginning through the budgeting process here. And there's a request from the LUD committee, this is 851, for what we wish to charge them for collecting garbage for the 2023 calendar year. Up until now, the LUD service plan has not necessarily been fully into what was intended by the province for an LUD. So what should happen in an LUD is that the entire municipality is treated equally. So for example, we plow snow everywhere in the municipality. Every road we plow the snow on. So that's no different in the LUD. We plow the snow on the roads. But in the LUD, we also plow snow on sidewalks, which we don't do anywhere else. So that's a special feature the LUD receives. And they could choose not to have their sidewalks plowed, and then they would just have very snowy sidewalks and life would go on. Much the same with garbage. We don't collect garbage in the entire municipality. It's the responsibility of each resident to bring the garbage to a landfill. In the LUD, the committee typically chooses to have the garbage collected door to door, and there's a cost for that. What has been happening in the past is we were in the LUD service plan showing the wages of 2 people, and then those people did different things. But that isn't necessarily the way it's supposed to be. If the service is garbage, we're supposed to say garbage costs this much money, and the LUD can choose if they want to have it or not. So they have the option of saying, we don't want garbage every week because it costs too much. We only want to pick it up every 2 weeks. It would be cheaper. And the LUD committee essentially has to make those decisions. They're elected for the people of Benito to decide what they want different and above everybody else in the municipality. So anytime they want a service that isn't the same as we offer to every resident, there's usually a cost to that. We tell them what the cost is. If they agree to the cost, we then add it to the taxes of the people that live in that area. Their taxes are a little higher, and it pays for those costs. So the LUD has indicated they would like to have garbage collection this year, which isn't a surprise, we've always done that. They need to know how much we want for it, so they can determine if they're willing to pay for it. So we came up with the budgetary number of $40,000. This was based on a best effort look at how much wages we actually use in it, plus fuel, plus amortization for the garbage vehicle. It was then sanity checked by looking at what OSS sanitation would charge to do the same service. So if they picked up in Benito and took it to Benito landfill for us, what would the cost be? And the answer is a little bit less than $40,000 a year. So by using local staff, we've put 40,000 here. That's the general thought of what it's going to actually cost to do garbage. But certainly we as the council should discuss that and make sure everybody's comfortable with it. What are your thoughts on this?
And if this is low,
If this is low, there's a couple options. One is that we say, boy, we really beat that up, and we eat it. The other option is we go back to the LUD committee and say, I'm sorry, we've made a mistake. Garbage is costing more than we thought it would. What do you want to do? Will you pay the extra, or do you wish to cut service down to what we can afford? So say, for example, we found out that garbage was really costing us $80,000. It never would, but as an example, they could say, well, then only every second week we'll pay the 40 we said. So there's a couple variations. If it's within a few $100s, either way.
yeah.
The other side of this is if it costs us less than $40,000 to do it, we're keeping the extra. They pay $40,000, and if at the end of the year it only cost us 35, they still pay $40,000 for it.
The only thing is that it's, by the time that $40,000 is, I mean, you'll use that 40,000 and then say, what, oh, we made a mistake, you know?
We would want to know sooner rather than later.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would think, like multi-year wise, if we found out we were off by a lot this year, we would look at an increase for next year with the intention of covering off. You know, I'm sure the LUD committee, we can, Mr. Kushniryk speak to if they're reasonable people or not. I'm sure they are that would.
I think right now we're actually coming in, like you mentioned, we compare it to OSS. So the other avenue you have to consider too is, should we come in low and say it costs us 55 and you say we want 55, well, we could get it from OSS for 35, right? So do we want to utilize staff that we have and trucks that we have? You know, there's two sides to that coin.
The only thing with OSS is when they come in there and you pay them, they take that paycheck and they go and they spend it in another province.
Yeah, exactly.
So you'd sooner employ our own people to do the job and have them spend the money in the valley.
Which has also been part of the thought process of paying more to the municipality to do it versus sourcing it out of province.
How will we actually know what it actually costs?
We track our unit costs. So on the budget, we can see what we spend on the actual equipment used. We track our hours roughly within an hour or so each week. We know how many hours it takes to do garbage. And we also track the fuel by unit. So we should be able to tell fairly accurately what the unit costs were. And that's always been the big concern, is what does the equipment cost? The hours are pretty straightforward for figuring out the hours.
Does anybody know? Like I don't got time to go sit there and say, okay, they started collecting garbage at, at 9 o'clock in the morning and they're done at, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, how?
Typically, garbage collection on Mondays in Benito takes 4 to 5 hours.
Okay.
Some, after a long weekend,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
more.
yeah,
Takes longer.
Yeah.
Summertime, a lot of people away, less garbage this time.
That's fine, okay,
But we always figured an average of 5 hours.
okay.
And then commercial garbage on
Yeah.
Fridays,
See, if some-
averages an hour and a half.
See, if somebody would have asked me and said, oh, how long does it, I would say, well, Mondays is garbage, that's what they do, and Fridays or whatever, eh? So
It's only a
But I
couple
mean, now I
hours
know
on
that it
Fridays.
takes, 4 to 5 hours, all depending on, okay.
The other thing that's in initial discussion there, the LUD has a substantial amount of reserves at the moment. And there has been some discussion about perhaps the LUD wishing to purchase a garbage truck as a gift for Swan Valley West. That would be a compacting truck. The good news of that is that it would extend landfill life substantially because the garbage would take less physical room, so the cell would last longer. Typically, we would add the price of that truck to these fees and say, well, we're gonna buy a new garbage truck, we're going to add $20,000 a year for 10 years for a garbage truck. We haven't done anything like that here because the discussion I've heard so far is if they want to go down that path, they may authorize the use of their reserves to pay for the truck.
Okay.
So then there would be replacement equipment paid for out of those old reserves.
Those reserves, and we have another item coming up farther down here that we might make better
Need the
use
money.
of those reserves,
Yeah,
somewhere else.
Legally, you cannot use reserves of Benito that they had at the time of amalgamation, according to the municipal act. Just saying.
But I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep. Let's read this resolution, see where it goes. Be it resolved that the garbage collection fees to the LUD of Benito be set at $40,000 for the 2023 calendar year. Is there someone that wishes to move that? Moved by Councillor Kushniryk. Is there someone who wishes to second?
Benito guy should do that.
What's it?
A Benito guy should put his hand up right now.
Councillor McGregor.
You look pretty serious.
Any further discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 852, Benito utility operator fees, similar but very different. So we've been chasing here for a while the water rate study for the LUD of Benito, the utility there. The rate study included a budget that showed substantial expenditures for staff time to operate the plant. In some cases, more than a full-time person at the plant all the time. So the thought process here is how we got to those numbers. And those numbers historically have always been 1/3 of the wages assigned to Benito. But in the new LED service plan, there will be no 2 people assigned to Benito. So 1/3 of nothing is nothing, which means the utility would pay $0 for operators under the old formula, which isn't appropriate. They should pay their fair share. So this is to set the operator fees for the operators and for the administration fee for the year, and then each year thereafter until adjusted by council. So this will ensure the utility is paying for the time it uses. This is based on 2 hours a day, weekdays, 3 hours a day on Saturday and Sunday, plus an allowance of 1 day a month for disconnects and connects. So one full, another 8-hour day for associated water things if there's a water break or something. The administration fee was set at $5,000 for the actual staff time used for receiving the payments, and 1 day every 3 months to create the water bills. It was $1,000 for postage and $4,000 as probably going to spend it on administration, just not sure how, for a total of $10,000. So the resolution be it resolved that the Benito utility operator fees be set at $40,000 and the administration staff fees be set at $10,000 for the years 2023 and each year thereafter until adjusted by council. So each year we can change these, but if we don't, it stays stuck at this. The reason for the going forward, shortly we will be in a position to refile our budgets for the utility with the Public Utilities Board. This resolution will allow us to show fixed operator fees, which will start to affect that application we have in currently for the adjustments we wish to make. Is there someone who wishes to move this? Councillor Kushniryk. Let's give Councillor Burick the second spot. Any discussion on the resolution? Councillor Neely. Sorry, Councillor Blosha.
I just wondered if you're, like in here, you're not adding any costs for the operator course, which should be in there.
I didn't put anything in there except The operator, if you do the hours, it is around $30,000 of actual staff time here.
Okay,
So there's an $8,000 to $9,000 cushion, which was kind of what we were seeing as the operator courses amortized over time.
okay.
So-
No, I just wanted to make sure that you were
I think
including the
there's-
operator courses in that.
There's a chance we may exceed that this year. You know, if we were to train 2 people and they were to get all the courses done by the end of the year, I don't know if they would. But next year, we then wouldn't be training anybody. And we'd be getting the money back.
So just to clarify, the operating course is gonna come out of the utility fund?
It's going to come, it's a Swan Valley West employee taking it, so it'll be Swan Valley West pays for it, and we've increased the amount being charged to the utility for our staff. So we're charging the utility more per hour for the staff than we actually pay them, to cover the fact that we train them.
Okay.
Further discussion? Anybody else, questions, comments? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 853. This comes up many times and has been discussed many times, so to get ahead of it in the budgeting process, we wanted to bring it forward tonight so we can talk about it and make decisions. If we choose to table it, that's fine too, but let's start the discussions. Be it resolved that the Council of Swan Valley West shall provide a grant to the Bonito Recreation Centre in the amount of the cost of insurance for 2023, and additionally provide a $10,000 allocation for additional requests as may be approved by Council from time to time. Is there someone that wishes to move that? Councillor Blosha? Is there someone who would like to second that? Councillor Neely? I'll give you a little background here. The last few years, we've historically been covering the costs of the insurance, and just showing a grant to them for the same amount as what the insurance costs, and we don't necessarily write them a check and get it back, we just do it internally. And there's been an additional $10,000 allocation. That's been 2 years probably at that level, I think. The $10,000 part has moved a bit, as has the insurance. So the insurance is around a $50,000 touch right now. It's different every year. But at one time, when I started on council, it was more like $26,000 for
I
insurance.
was gonna say
Yeah,
$20,000 it
and
used
then
to be.
32 and then
So
40.
it's gone up substantially. Part of those insurance cost increases is that there has been a change to the AMM insurance. They've increased the self-insured loss pool. So for a few years, we paid extra premiums as the entire province increased that loss pool. That's brought premiums down a little bit now, so they're not increasing as much as they used to be. But certainly the insurance is very expensive, so you'll expect $50,000 for that insurance cost. There is sometimes a rebate on it. If we find out that it was a good year and there wasn't a lot of loss, we get some of it back, but don't expect any back. That's a gift if it
But if
comes.
this is replacement, look at how things have gone up the last 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely.
I mean, it doubled.
Mhm.
So,
What's the feeling on the $10,000 allocation? Is council okay with that? That's essentially what we had last year.
we're saying we can use it, we may not use it, is that what you're saying?
Available should it be needed, so it's in the budget, so if their committee says we have this project, we would like your help with this, we say, absolutely, we have money already allocated for it.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion?
We, in the OD, covered their utilities for water.
Okay,
I think it was around 23 or 2,400 bucks, I think.
so what is the feeling on the water bill? $2,300 to $2,400, the LUD has typically paid it, is the LUD wanting to still pay it?
I was under the impression of no, but it hasn't been discussed.
Okay,
Years
Yeah,
ago, when
so-
I was on the council in Bonito, the council just paid the water
Yes.
for the rink, right?
Mhm.
That's all I know about it. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just saying what I remember.
so would it be agreeable, we have the $10,000,
We could use some of that.
if we might use some of that, but we can certainly send to the LUD committee, they meet here shortly. They can determine if they wish to pay the water, and we can add that to their service plan if they do. And if they don't, we'll bounce that back here at some point and decide, we can always allocate a little more if we
When you
need
say
to.
$2,600 a year?
I think it was 23 or 24, so it's
Oh,
gonna be
okay.
2,500 bucks, you know, it's whatever.
Is that agreeable to the group?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion or questions on this? Not, we'll call the question, those in favor, please. That's carried. We're moving now to the fun part of the agenda. I always think, I like discussion. As if we didn't have any before. Section 9.1, use of federal gas tax money for Thunder West. This is on the agenda because at the last meeting, council approved a drawdown of the federal gas tax fund of $1,175,000. Not all councillors were present. The discussion certainly wasn't heated. It was a very civil discussion, but there was an intense discussion about why we needed to do that. And the councillors present that night asked that it come back onto the agenda tonight to make sure that the whole group heard what was going on and there was no miscommunications about why it had to happen. Councillor Burick was the one that asked for it to be on the agenda. That was accurate what I'm suggesting for what's here tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted everybody to know that what happened, we're all on the same level.
So I'll go over quickly what we did for those that weren't here. The 2022 budget provided for a drawdown of the federal gas tax fund for two reasons. One was the Thunder West Fire Department. The other was for bridge upgrading, the Crestview Bridge and the Whitmire Bridge. The budget hinged on that money coming out of that reserve fund. If it didn't come out of that reserve fund, we would be short approximately $1 million in the 2022 budget, which would result in a shortfall that we'd have to report to the province. When we reported that shortfall, we would then be ordered to make it up in taxation this year, which would mean $1 million increase to taxation to our taxpayers this year. So while there certainly was lots of discussion around the table of whether or not we were happy to spend the money, the reality is the money has already been spent. Those bridges have been done, those bills have been paid, everything with Thunder West for the most part has been paid for already. And so it was simply a question of if we wanted to proceed with the gas tax withdrawal. The projects were eligible for gas tax funding. Fire trucks and fire halls are eligible, as are the bridges. So it's not a bad thing to take the money out. It's legal to do it. It was just a discussion of if we wished to go ahead and do that, and the will of council at that time was to go ahead and do it. So the resolution was passed, withdrawing $1.175 million from gas tax. That almost completely depleted our gas tax holdings in the rural area. So we will be down to, depending on how this year shakes out in the transfers, somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 likely of gas tax money left. And there was great discussion at the meeting that the gas tax money would have been able to be used for upgrading roads, but isn't able to be used, obviously, if it's not there. So I looked at Councillor Burick if I captured what he wanted repeated, or if he would like to add some more to it.
That's good.
Hey, does anybody else have questions or comments on that? There's no resolution to go with this tonight, it's just information. Councillor Neely.
We can't tax $1 million.
That was kind of the feeling from over here. I said, here's your options. You can tax an extra $1 million, or you can use the reserve funds.
Well,
I can't support taxing $1 million extra.
it's tied up in assets now, so.
We just wanted everybody that wasn't here on the same page to
Yeah.
know what was going on, eh, so that.
I thought it was already out.
Well, yeah, well.
The disappointing
I
part
just
is
assumed
whereas
that
we
it
would have had
be out already.
gas tax to do a major road repair, or bridge project or something like that, we're now faced with a debenture or taxing the following year. We don't have reserves to draw on.
If we wanna do a big project.
If something comes up
That's right.
unexpected, I would say
Yeah.
more than anything.
I think the next project we should be looking at, and I think Brian will agree with me, it'd be that Brown Bridge possibly at some point in time here. That could be an expensive one.
They all are.
No, but that one, putting a top on is one thing, but you have to redo the whole thing. And
We will move on to 9.2, speed reader signs. Councillor Kushniryk and I have been speaking about speed reader signs, so we have found the information you need to know. I don't know if everyone had a chance to go through that, so I'm going to recap it a little bit for you. In Benito and Kenville, there's been continual concerns about speeding. Kenville going up the hill, people tend to still be going 90 kilometers an hour as they go through the middle of town. In Benito, they tend to be going 70, 80 kilometers an hour through the middle of town. Both of those are Manitoba infrastructure routes. They're not our own roads. If it was our own road, say for example, just a gravel road someplace, we can do anything we feel like with a speed sign. As soon as it's a Manitoba infrastructure road, things are a little different. So they have specific rules for when you can place speed reader signs. Those rules require that the 85th percentile of vehicles traveling through the speed zone are in excess of 10% of the speed limit. Being that we have great technology, dual optical sensors as they call them, we've been able to observe that indeed the 85th percentile of vehicles in those speed zones are speeding by at least 10%, which qualifies those zones for speed readers if we want. The Manitoba government encourages us to not install a permanent speed reader. They feel their effectiveness declines over time. The people that sell the speed readers disagree with them. They believe that their effectiveness stays quite high over time, but they do ask that we consider temporary installations. So what is proposed here is a rotating installation, where it could be in Benito, then it could go to Kenville, then it could go to the other end of Benito, and rotate around perhaps a month or two at each location.
A little bit on Potton Drive,
We certainly can put it anywhere we wish.
or River Road, I mean, on Potton
Maybe
Drive.
put it up when the highways are driving by the school with
Jeremy, he drives like a madman down there. Oh, no,
The speed readers come in various sizes. There's 11-inch, 12-inch, and 15-inch. Manitoba infrastructure does not allow any speed reader under 15-inch digits. So while I do have quotes for the 11 and 12, I didn't present them here tonight. They're only a couple $100 cheaper, but certainly I would recommend if we're to buy a speed reader sign, we buy one that can be used in any location, including those highways. It doesn't make sense to save a few $100s and not be able to put it in Benito.
Well, Benito, the railroad tracks is sort of a slowdown.
They fixed them though. and
Yeah, that's right.
Once they fixed them, they fly through
Yeah.
still.
not so
Like those trucks are
Is there
going
a
90
stop sign
clicks
there,
going through.
Is there a stop sign at the road
But
crossing? or
you
no?
know, when you go by a school zone, that thing is there all year round,
And you go,
even in the summer months. I mean, it's,
yeah,
and,
you
and
go,
I look at it and go, oh shit, you know, back off.
I do the same. You roll into Camsack or Roblin, they have them, and as soon as you see it, you hit the brakes.
Yeah.
It's habit. And when you roll into Benito, you've got our skate park right there, and the kids are right there.
Yeah.
It's a pretty heavy.
Well, Camsack was so bad that
But
one,
you'd
that
almost
one year
have
they
to
put
have
speed
on
bumps
both
across,
ends.
eh?
Oh,
Well, that's what
When you
it
come
was.
into Camsack and when you, from both ends, eh?
Oh, so
My
you had,
thought process is leaning towards the south side, just because the loaded trucks are coming that way,
loaded trucks are coming through Benito too.
headed north.
Yeah.
I think they're a good idea.
The cost per sign with mounting hardware is basically $4,300 plus tax.
Maybe I'm not.
The sign comes with the solar option, so it's a solar sign. It has the batteries. It also comes with 1 year of internet access. The signs are internet enabled, so the first year is free. The sign provides you traffic reports of how many people go by and the speeds you're going at. And you can also have the sign not display, so you can have the sign sitting there measuring the speed without showing the digits. If you wish to see the difference between off and on, or any button you wish to click, you can click. After the first year, it's $400 a year for internet, but it's not required to purchase it. The sign can always be set up using Bluetooth if you're near the sign. So there's an app you use to change, you know, if it's a 50 zone, if it's a 70 zone, to find out how the sign is doing. So there's no requirement to keep paying for that internet access over time. The sign is essentially free.
Once you got it, you got it.
You got it. If for some reason you were really loving that internet data and checking it every day, it would be $400 for the next additional year of internet.
Is that your brother?
That's, you know, it's the Revy Bob. Administration's pointing out the quote didn't quite figure out what my name was.
They're not cheap, them sides, eh?
They're not. They do get more expensive. There's trailer mounted ones that are even more. And the universal bracket here is $225. The pole plate's $99. So essentially, say we had two locations we were going to swap back and forth, we could spend that extra $300 and some to have the plating done, so we're not taking it down and moving it. The sign just simply unclips off one, clips onto the other then, and moves in just a few minutes. So the question is, there's a resolution written here. This resolution, as far as we understand, is written in compliance with what the Manitoba government must see. We must pass a resolution and send it to them with a permit application to install these signs and indicate where we want them. They then tell us if they're allowed. This resolution provides for buying it and having that in the 2023 financial plan we would pass later on. So I wouldn't necessarily think we're buying a sign anytime soon. We would use this resolution to send off with the permit application and make sure the permit's approved for where we wish to be able to place the signs.
And we have to tell them where we're gonna put the
We have
sign.
to show them where and get their permission for those locations.
Vandalism, are we insured for vandalism on that thing?
Our deductible is higher than the cost of the sign. So yes, but
Yes.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's not advertised that.
the sign is, if it's a locking thing, it has a key that locks it to the pole, so it's fairly safe. Certainly with enough effort, you can take the sign home with you. But it doesn't seem to be a problem in other communities. I've never heard of any going for a walk, but
I was thinking more of,
they're fairly tough.
yeah,
And you mount them fairly high, like, it's higher than you would think it would be, because it's not where we stand. It's the height of the highway, so you're
Yeah.
going to be up 12 feet probably when you mount these things. So it would be tough to reach from the ground. I suppose you could throw bottles at it, you could shoot at it, but if you're shooting at the sign in downtown Manitoba, we've probably got bigger
yeah,
troubles.
yeah, that's true.
The only place we'd have to get their permission would be on, in Benito on Highway 83 and going right through Kenville.
Yeah, we have to ask for those. The rest of it, we can do anything we want.
Ditch road would have to too, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
if we wanted to.
Oh, ditch road, yeah.
But yeah, like Potton is open, you could put it anywhere.
River Road there, yeah.
These can also be mounted, like say, should we be doing construction someplace?
Yeah,
You can mount it right on the
Yeah.
back of one of our trucks or something and have the truck sit there with the sign on it in the construction zone just to slow people down. They say it's very effective. The sign people, they sell them obviously, but they say at initial install it reduces speeding by 95%. And at the 6-month mark, it's still reducing speeding by 85%.
well, they slow me down, so that's saying something.
It's just instinct as soon as you see it.
Yeah.
It's just, oh,
Yeah.
you don't realize you're doing it so much as.
I'm actually checking my speedometer and then seeing what that, you know,
Yeah, me too.
how close we are.
See, my speedometer's right, yeah.
This resolution, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, we gotta get permission first, right? So then,
So this resolution says the word "a" in front of 15-inch sign. Is everyone fine with the word "a"? Not many, not two, not three. This is for one.
start with one.
Very good. Is the remover, please? Councillor Kushniryk. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Any further discussion? Carrie, then we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. We will move promptly to 9.3. We've had the discussion before, certainly it was discussed during the election somewhat, the idea of rural address signs that are compatible with 911 service. Tonight we're presenting a quote for 1,000 locations. There is actually 1,116 occupied dwellings in Swan Valley West. This quote will be slightly low, if you adjust in your mind what that would mean. Each sign costs $25.25. The post to put it on is $19. The little bolty things that hold it on are 80 cents each, and you need 2. So cost for 1,000 locations is approximately $46,000. That would include the signs being made. We would have to bring them here. There'll be a small shipping cost for that. If we don't pick them up, I would assume we'll ship them. And then we would also have to install them. The intention would be to install these with spare time and green team staff, so that we could have green team out there. There is the option of having residents install them. It's highly discouraged because of sign placement. They wish it to be a crew that understands and puts them all in the same place, so that you know uniformly where to look for the sign. You're not driving by with an ambulance wondering where someone may have put it. I can speak to how the addresses work if anyone's curious.
Yeah.
Okay, so the addresses on this is a uniform address that's used all over Manitoba. So it essentially shows you the road you're on the bottom line of the sign. And if you look at the sign options, there's a blue sign that's a 2-line sign. That's the one we're looking at. So on the bottom of the sign, it would indicate the road you're on that you're used to knowing the number of. So for example, you might live on Road 168. It would show Road 168 at the bottom. The top number is determined by the nearest road to the south of you, plus 3 digits of how far you are in feet. So for example, if you lived on 168, but the closest road to you was 198, which is out where I live, and you're a little bit north of that, you would be 198, and then the last 3 digits would indicate how far you are. So if you were at the halfway mark, you'd be 2,600 feet, so the last 2 digits would be 260. That works in all the locator systems, so when an ambulance or fire truck types that into their locator, it shows them precisely where it is. But if for some reason that's not working, you can still locate yourself by knowing the intersection and then how far you should drive to get to the scene.
Was it one of these you're talking about?
The blue, the square blue one at the top.
The one
Yeah.
at the top?
Yes. That could be changed, that was the one that was, they can be done the other way with those really, really long numbers, but they don't then show the road number you're on, which isn't necessarily as recommended. So it's for discussion. Who wants to have some discussion? Is anyone thinking it's a good idea? How do you think about the price tag? $50,000, is it affordable? The idea of installing with Green Team, is that something we're willing to look at? What are people's thoughts?
I've had a lot of people asking for that too. So, I mean, it's a lot of interest in the community for that.
We did have a fire call yesterday, and unfortunately, the addressing was an issue again in the fire call. The fire department was initially dispatched to the wrong location, because the 911 system simply isn't prepared for section, township, and range. And they were only off by 1 digit, but that 1 digit made a substantial difference in where the fire was
It was
located.
across the highway from us.
Yeah.
And they
So-
went- I knew they were in the wrong spot because they didn't stay long enough to
They
be in
came
there.
to your place?
No, across the highway.
Oh.
So
But we could see it all happening.
certainly, for that, it would have,
Because if it
Got the
was
fire
a, if
department
it
in the
was
right
a,
place.
if it was a true emergency,
Yeah, if it's life-threatening, so
Yes.
it's something different.
and it is hard for those guys. They don't travel those roads.
They don't live here, a lot of them, they move here from elsewhere.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
I wish the price tag wasn't so high, but when you average it out to each home, it's not. But
It saves a life.
exactly.
Yeah.
How do you put a price on it?
We're likely looking, by the time the smoke clears, it'll be $100,000 deal. I would guess. It's 1,000 places to put
No,
up
'cause we
signs,
pay
that's a
Green
lot of
Team.
places.
yeah, Green Team, we pay them anyway.
Yeah, we're paying them anyway.
If we can find enough spare time, so we're not hiring someone else,
Yes.
probably 60,000. By the time we
Yeah.
buy those extra, the 100
If
signs.
those kids can do it, you know what
Oh,
I
they
mean?
will.
We should be around 50.
It might take a year or 2 or 3, but,
Exactly.
you know, we're not gonna get it done in 1 year, that's for sure. I wouldn't think.
We
No.
should.
But when I
We
had
should
my
be
accident
asking.
years ago by Byron's, you couldn't ask for a much easier way to describe where you are, right? The Bonito fire, of course, was instant. You could not explain, the ambulance couldn't find it. 911 will not listen to any direction. I don't know the road number. Tell them to come down 83 and turn south at the hydro station. They won't even entertain passing that along. There was no way. They wanted to know, where are you?
They want you to have a house number in the street.
Yeah, it was just impossible.
What is the will of council on this for tonight?
Well, we could buy the signs, I guess, and then over the next couple of years or whatever, possibly get them all up. You know, if we wanna make that as a budget item for this year,
Okay, so is it the will of council to put this into the 2023 budget?
if we got
think so,
room,
yeah.
yeah.
There'll be room.
We'll squeak it in.
We'll squeak it in. Okay, so I'm not going to bring anything forward tonight for resolution, if that's fine. We'll just include this in the budget. You'll see it in the budget when we get to that part of our lives in a couple weeks' time. Coming soon, budgeting. Unless somebody wants a resolution, right? We could pass a resolution
No, we
that says we'll
Why not?
include it in the budget.
Yeah, I'd say pass the resolution, get it rolling. Get it
Yeah, we
rolling, I mean,
can't roll it till we get it in
We
the
wouldn't
budget.
pay for them.
Can't
There
pay
is,
for it.
there is some process that could be done. I'm not suggesting we have spare admin time,
Yeah.
but someone has to come up with a list of all the address signs
Yeah.
that we need. So if we know we're going to do it, we could pass a resolution saying we're going to put it in the budget,
I'd say so.
and then should a miracle fall from the sky that somebody has time to figure out the addresses, somebody can start working on that.
I'd like to put it on paper.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can do that for you.
It's gonna be a big job to figure all that out, by golly.
We're hoping the computer system that we're paying that $18,000 a year for can do it.
The CGIS.
It'll be in there.
It should be in there.
It is.
Yeah. Well, I've got a sample resolution for you to think about. Be it resolved that council agree to purchase and install rural address signs for all occupied dwellings, and the cost shall be included in the 2023 financial plan. Is that suitable? Mr. Burick, did you want to move that?
Yep.
Is there someone that'd like to second it? Councillor Zbirun. Discussion on that resolution. Anything further? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 9.4, GPS location services for municipal equipment. This has been previously discussed off and on. There's a quote here provided tonight from Titan GPS Systems. They claim to be Canada's leading GPS system, which means they likely have a very good salesman that wrote that pitch. What we do understand, though, is that they are the folks that provide GPS systems to a substantial number of governments and utility operators, which is why we're looking at them. This would provide for GPS equipment for 5 snowplows, graders, so it's obviously used year-round, call it what you will, depending on the time of year, 2 mower tractors, and 2 lead hand vehicles. The way this pricing works, the TT6000 GPS is their high-end unit. It provides for store and forward coverage. So if you drive into an area where there's no cell phone service, when you return to cell phone service, everything you did while you were there is then sent in. So you don't have dead zones where, for example, on Alpine, you might not see a section of Alpine. As soon as you came back out of that zone, the map would show where you've been. They offer a 5-year program where you don't pay for any of the equipment if you sign up for 5 years of use of it. If you don't want to sign up for the 5 years use, you can pay the total shown there for each GPS unit, which is $4.99, plus the cable's $40. I think you always pay for the cable. But you can save the $500 if you buy up front. You also receive a better deal on the monthly service. So there's 2 options for monthly service. What's called Vehicle Advanced is $29.95 a month. What's called Public Works is $41.95. The difference between the two, in Vehicle Advanced, every 1 minute your position is recorded and saved on the map. In Public Works, your position is recorded every 30 seconds. They recommend snowplows should be on every 30 seconds, but their recommendation is likely based upon city use, where you're turning corners quite often with streets. It would be hard to imagine anywhere where we would need 30-second resolution in our municipality. This would provide a safety aspect for our operators in that you can see where the equipment is if they stop responding and go directly to them. It also provides some help for us being able to forecast snow removal. This can produce mapping for us that shows where we've been after a storm and let us know if we've missed any roads before we have someone calling in to say, hey, you missed me. It also provides, in some cases, for us to see how long ago we were there. So for example, where the grader is now is green, and if you follow the path back throughout the whole shift, it's red by the far end. So you can actually see where were we and which way are we moving, how's it working. The information would not generally be publicly available unless we published it. We would choose if we wanted to. So after a storm, for example, we could show a couple days in a map of here's everywhere we've been, and here's the roads we're still going to. Specifically for the mower operators, there have unfortunately been several cases noted where roads were missed this year and things were not mowed. And while you would think, let's just send a paper map with them, that's what we've been doing, and unfortunately it's not working. So we have some operators fairly concerned about snow load in the areas where things weren't mowed. Especially if we look to do 2 passes of mowing this year, which I think is very likely. Council will consider that. This would allow us to see for the first half of the year, make sure we patrol all the roads. Then for the second half of the year, make sure we hit all the roads a second time and know if we've missed anything and be able to go back and do that cleanup work before the snow comes so we don't have a surprise again. It also saves us driving around the entire municipality to see if the roads are done. So the cost savings on councillors or the foreman driving around to check for mowing would pay for the entire system for the entire fleet, not just the mowers. What are the thoughts of council on this?
How many units are we talking?
So 5 snowplow graders,
Mhm.
2 mowers, and 2 lead hand trucks.
9.
9.
And is this quote for one?
This quote is for 9.
For 9, yeah.
And the quote for the 377 a month is actually at the 30-second interval, right?
Yes,
So it would actually be cheaper than what you're seeing at the 377.
be $270 a month
For the 9.
for the 9 of them.
It would be what?
$270 a month.
For
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 nine.
9 units.
No,
$270 is the total per month.
Per unit.
No,
for
For,
all.
for
For
all
all
9 units.
You're looking at about
That's what I-
$3,300 for a year for everything.
And we don't own equipment.
We do own it.
Oh, we would buy it.
It's given to us for free on a 5-year contract.
Oh, and then it's ours after that.
then you can either renew
So
or,
for $3,000 a year, we're GPS up.
yeah.
Plus $764 up front.
That's pretty reasonable.
It's very reasonable. These particular units, this does not include blade up, blade down, but the units are capable of that. So if we choose to add that in the future, we just buy the little kit for it and it shows you if you're grading or just driving.
The ratepayers will let us know.
They
Yeah.
tend to do that very well. This would, to me,
No cost.
the big thing to me for the staff is that we have all heard on council, the grader hasn't been here in 6 months, or the grader went by 3 times and it shouldn't have. This system will allow us to support our staff and prove they're doing the right things and say, no, we have been there. We were there 4 times in the last however long, these are the dates we were there. So we will no longer have people saying your grader operators don't do their job. We can be saying, yes, they do.
They might have been in Florida when he went by.
They might have been. It's nice this time of year in here. I don't have a resolution written for this, but I would suggest that, given what I consider a very low cost, we consider going ahead and doing this right away and getting the equipment installed, and then using it for the rest of the winter and being ready into the summer.
Yeah, this is something that was started about 6 years ago. It's never ever got done.
So I guess we don't need more than one quote then, or what?
Under our current purchasing policy, we don't have
That's
to
under
have-
the amount, yeah, I know, but so was the other one we're waiting for quotes for.
I did spend some time, I found a cheaper one.
I'm not
That
seeing
wouldn't do
cheaper.
the stolen forward, so when they drove out of range, they just disappeared until they came back. So any roads that you didn't know if we'd been there or not, right? So, you know, in the parts of Alpine, you just disappear for a while.
So the best you could say is they were in the area.
We know they went up there someplace. "60-second updates would be fine for everybody, the cheaper updates.
The big thing is if somebody got hurt or something, that's,
There was an incident a few years ago where the mower operator couldn't be found. They just disappeared. And 3.5 hours were spent driving around looking for the mower, not knowing for the 3.5 hours if someone was hurt or not. And that was a pretty stressful 3.5 hours to the staff that were looking for where it might be. Because if they had fallen off and been hurt,
yeah.
obviously you want to find them as soon as possible, but you knew they were there.
Yeah, if it doesn't move for 2 hours, you know something's up.
Yeah. Be it resolved, the council approve the purchase of a Titan GPS system for 9 units as indicated in the attached quote with 60-second updates. Is there someone that would like to move that? Councillor Neely, is there a seconder? Councillor McGregor. Further discussion on that resolution? Questions, comments? If not, those in favor? That's carried. 9.5, Benito Main Street Snow Plan. This has been discussed off and on. This particular second is not as pressing as it was a few days ago. Manitoba Infrastructure has been having a hard time clearing the street in Benito. Main Street is theirs to clear. Typically, they push the snow to the side, We then come with our tractor and pile it up to try and get it away from the fronts of the businesses. We make piles of it. They then come and haul it all away at some point. They missed the last part. So it snowed, it got pushed, we piled it. It snowed some more, it got pushed, we piled it some more, and that repeated until there was really no place left to park on Main Street in Bonito. They have now hauled it away, which is good. They indicate the reason for that is because they're short of staff. So they simply weren't able to come, and it kept snowing, and they kept not being able to make it. We can clear it. We don't have any contract with them, so there would be no payment for us to clear it. We have been attempting to contact Manitoba Infrastructure to see what's available. The town of Swan River's experience is that the amount they're willing to pay is far less than the cost of doing it. So it's usually not something that even breaks even. So it's on here for discussion to feel out, what do we do if this gets really bad again? Do we do something about it even if we're not being paid? Do we just apply pressure to Manitoba Infrastructure? Do we just live with it until they get there? What is the will of council? Who wants to go first?
I'll just
Councillor
go
Neely.
from history, from days gone by here, but there's times they couldn't get there and we'd get either Yaki or Les or somebody to push it all up in the middle of the street, right? There'd be a berm there 4 feet high or 3 feet high for maybe a week, and then highways would come in and clean it up. But they paid the council at that time to clean the streets off, you know, from the highway to Skelton's down to a block north of the library and then back out. So I don't know what their policy is now, but what you're saying, they don't even pay what it costs to do it anymore.
They don't. We can certainly, I think administration is going to keep talking to them to get the right person and find out what the payment is and know what the options are for that.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, you know, there's been some suggestion if it gets really bad again, we just bite the bullet ourselves and do it. Is there,
Oh, we can't leave it like that.
Yeah, if we got the equipment to
There was
haul the snow
nowhere
away.
left to go.
You
And you couldn't even see it go down Main Street because you didn't know if you're going around that pile, who are you gonna hit?
If you didn't have a truck, you couldn't park until it gets packed.
Well, you're right, there was nowhere to park.
So we would
And
just
most
take- we could
people
just-
do not have a truck in town.
No,
We take our tandem out there and then get a
clean it
loader.
up. Like,
We don't have a loader, I
Well,
don't
and
think,
then
right?
send them around.
pack.
Hire a loader or
See
whatever.
what happens.
we've got the front end loader, but not a great.
No, but I
one
mean,
for that.
you know, get the loader.
I would think if we did it, we would only take just enough. We wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily set about
Yeah,
taking the whole
take
pile.
it, take
We would
enough, take enough so
that's-
we can get by and let them have the rest.
So would we just
That's their job.
make a windrow down the middle of the streets like we, like was
It would have been
before?
better if it had been pushed to the middle like the
Once we
years
make the-
before.
Once we make the
But they-
piles, it's very
They made
difficult
the
to then do
piles,
that.
they made the piles right up against the sidewalk.
Yeah.
But then you make the piles too high and then if
Well, the
you're in a
piles-
car, it's hard to see
the
if
piles
somebody's
were
coming at the corner.
Big enough that children from the school wanted to go tobogganing.
Okay, I heard it was pretty bad, like,
It
I
was
mean, you
bad.
couldn't
It was
park, you
bad.
couldn't park in front of some stores and, well, what did they do? They just pushed it to the sidewalk?
So what highways has typically done, they plow the middle, and so it just goes into what they call snow storage lanes. We may call those parking spots.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah. They call them snow storage lanes. So they just leave it there until they come back. If we didn't do anything, eventually they would come and grade it to the middle into a pile, then they would haul it away the next day. What we've always been doing the last several years is when it's pushed to the side, we come with our tractor and we push in front of the businesses, make a pile of snow where there isn't a business. When highways comes, they haul it away, everything works out. It's just they didn't come 3 snowstorms in a row. So the piles got prohibitively large to the point where there was very little Main Street left.
But the piles were pushed in the 3 main businesses,
That's
which
what I-
they shouldn't have been.
That's what I
I
In the
think
heard.
we've
first
only
place.
seen highways once each the last few winters.
Yeah, but I mean, the piles were not in good.
Particularly great.
No,
spots.
they could have been where they were years back too, cause there used to be one by the old hotel, or that's where it should have been. But there was one by the bank, there was one by the grocery store, like,
The one
those
by the-
piles were in the worst places possible.
Like, how long was it left for? That wasn't the first snowstorm, that was probably.
No.
It was
all the
left
snow-
for
It's all
all
winter.
the snowstorms.
All the snowstorms.
When they
Oh.
came this last time,
They
that
only
was the
did it
first
once.
time they were in Bonito.
See,
They've
Yes.
only been there
When the
once.
village existed, I'm not sure if this is right, but this is my understanding. There was an agreement with highways if they didn't show up when the snow was as high as the curb, and we would bill them $600, right?
We had a contract with them.
Which wasn't enough to cover it then, no different than it won't be enough now. But at the same point, Bonito is Swan Valley West town. when you pull into town, it doesn't look inviting, it doesn't look like it's open for business, it's no good for those stores, they can't, we had 2 broken bones in the last few years, tripping and falling on our streets. It's, sometimes you bite the bullet, I think, and clean up the mess. We'll recover what we can, would be my thoughts. We still run the town, right? It's,
Like you said, we've got the machine, like we've got the grader, put everything in the middle, we've got the trucks, you said we've got a tandem, we've got also semi, don't we? With the dump.
It's just you don't,
Only thing we
like,
don't
do
have
you
to
wanna
vote.
get into the habit
I don't
of
think we
doing it
wanna
all the
do
time?
it.
But
You don't
I-
wanna get into the habit of doing it all the time, cause they're gonna say, hey, you know what? They're only gonna charge us $600, let them do it. And that's what's gonna happen.
I'm just saying it.
You can't say, you
I'm
can't
just saying
say
it
it
dragged
like
for
that.
so long though, like, I mean, it's way too long.
No, it was way too long.
Councillor Neely.
I just have a question, is this at-large dollars that are gonna pay for this, or is this Benito Ludd that's gonna pay for it, or what are the plans, or?
Typically, snow plowing is at large because we plow the snow everywhere.
That's a highway though, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I fully believe that we need administration to keep talking to highways and come up with what's options for pricing and
Come-
what they'll pay and what we can
We
build.
definitely have to look into it. I have no problem if the grader's out there on whatever road, he's going by Byron's
Well,
house.
he goes
I
down
mean,
government road
he's-
allowance anyway, he might as well, he can come.
He's there already, it won't take
You
him
don't-
long to pile the
It's not
snow
that
up,
you don't
whether
want
it
him
be
to
in the
come, it's
middle of
just-
the road.
That's their responsibility and they should be looking after it.
Or paying the full price.
Or paying the full price to look after it.
So is it cleaned up now?
It's
Yes.
clean right now.
Okay,
we
so
don't
what
need
I'm-
to have a decision tonight, right?
Okay, so what happens if we get 10 inches of snow in a week's time?
Then
Leave it
we
again, do we leave it again till,
see, and my thoughts on that, which may differ from everybody else's, highways isn't coming. They're not coming again this year likely at all.
so we gotta do?
So if we don't do it, we just leave a mess for everybody to deal with again. That means our fairly senior population there has to trudge through that snow, park in places they shouldn't park. You know, we bring the grader down, railway, and he could turn and just do our main street up to the school and back or whatever and get the heck out of there so it doesn't build up to be, we were probably that high above the sidewalks. You know?
Yeah, I know, and I don't have a problem with them doing that. I'm just saying, when those big piles are there like they were, that, like, it took them a
Yeah.
whole day to get rid of it. It shouldn't take them a whole day because they should have been there a couple times, take them a couple hours one day.
I guess my question is it better piled up in the middle of the road, or the middle of the street, or is it better pushed onto the sidewalks?
Not on the
Like,
sidewalk.
I don't remember, God, you know, I didn't.
You don't
I got-
remember it being in the middle?
I do, but I don't remember years ago, this pile used to be on, close to the post office, on that side of the hotel.
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't have piles on Main
No,
Street, we
I
didn't have
know.
a ridge down the middle.
We didn't have as much
We
snow.
looked after it better.
Oh, there
And
was,
since
there
the
was,
mountain-
I think that was because highways did clean the main street and the only snow that we had on the side
Was the
street was
side
coming
streets.
from the side streets.
yeah.
So,
Highways used to
uh,
come and clean her out. I
And
watched them
I,
many
and I,
times.
and I kinda agree with Carrie is that as soon as we start doing it, they're gonna say, well, if we just wait another week, they'll do it themselves.
Oh, I don't think they care at this point.
No,
No.
what Brad just
They're
said,
not
we're not
coming.
seeing this
Swan
year.
River, SAP, they have contracts
But
already with.
then we better contact them and
We
make
better
some kind
a
of deal with
contract,
them. You know, that's at least half-ass fair, you know?
We can get half of the cost, that'd be better than nothing.
Yeah, like we were getting $600, how many years ago was that? 8 years ago, 9 years ago? So
No, 5 or 6.
5 or 6. So, well, we should be able to get more now, but we're not
Longer
gonna
than
cover our
that.
costs, but.
It's long from before,
No, that was the agreement when I retired
yeah.
in 2009.
I'm just saying that we should come up with a plan tonight, that if we do get that 10 inches of snow, let's say, that we know what to do. This
Well,
way
we send the
don't- that we
grader,
don't-
we send the
no.
grader down there, no
No,
matter
send the
what.
grader up there, and if we have a
Comes
truck,
there anyway.
hire, I'm just saying, hire somebody with a huff. But it wouldn't cost much, get it done with, clean it up. This way, if we don't come up with a decision tonight, it'll just sit there for weeks again.
You wanna hire someone at $2.50 an
Well,
hour?
get it, clean it up, and then the highways might pay you something.
Yeah, but if they're gonna give you $600 and you pay $2.50, it takes all day, $2.50 an hour times all day.
So what do you do then?
Well, I know that we have to do it ourselves.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we will direct administration to speak with Manitoba Infrastructure.
Yep.
Looking for perhaps two things: what they would pay if we always did it, and what they will pay more if we have to do it because they never showed up.
Right.
And then we will settle that and come back with some information. We'll take the direction from council that it is not to be let get as bad as it was.
Right.
We will have Public Works deal with it before such time as
Yeah.
it looks like it did if it starts snowing again.
Yeah, that sounds good, Abraham.
We mentioned something about
Sounds
Swan.
good.
What do they do?
So Swan River has now contracted so that Highways pushes it to the side. Swan River hires a contractor to put it in the middle and haul it away. Swan River tells us that the cost of doing that, what they're paid from Highways, pays for doing it once for the entire season, even though they've
Done
had
it
to do
3
it.
times already,
Yes.
I think.
And the rest is just a loss to Swan River. There has been some discussion there. When Highways does it, they always hire contractors with trucks. And so the thought is that when Highways is paying Swan River to do it, they're really only paying them to pile it in the middle. And then Highways should then also pay for the trucks.
To come
But that's
all
not
the way.
currently what's happening. But they would pay for the trucks one way or the other. And if they're only paying for the piling in the middle, what they're paying is an appropriate amount. But they're expecting that Swan River then also pays for the trucks, which is where it gets so expensive. Are we good with that, what I've described
Yeah.
for direction? Let's move to 9.6, Thunder West Fire Department update. As we've discussed here a few times with Thunder West, including last time where someone was ready to sell a fire truck and it wasn't me. Somebody else suggested selling fire trucks. So it was kind of nice to not be the one to say it. We have spoken with the town of Swan River. They are seeking meeting dates for another shared services meeting that will circulate shortly with council and get some dates set up for that. More to the point of tonight, however, we discussed that Thunder West is part of the mutual aid district. It's signed up to it, so the equipment is part of mutual aid. We have also been having discussions about what the future holds. So one of the options is talking to the town and us coming up with some plan to have a joint use fire department that each municipality would own a portion of, likely 50%, that would reuse some assets, sell off surplus assets, perhaps recoup some money, figure out a plan. To that end, we have extended an invitation to Swan River to look at Thunder West. They had never actually been in the building previously. They didn't feel welcome to be there to understand what was there for assets. So last night, I entertained a meeting with the chief of the Swan River Fire Department, the chief of the Bonito Fire Department, and some of the members of the Bonito Fire Department at the Thunder West Fire Hall. We looked through the equipment, so I knew what was there. They began the process of inventory to figure out what was there. I asked them both to put their mind to what is the best possible outcome for fire protection for the valley. Divorce the politics from it. I don't want to hear what you think council wants you to say. I want to hear what you think would be best for fire protection here, given where we're sitting right now. What do we do? They're going to look into that. Seahawk will be here this week. They will attend Thunder West and they will perform an independent evaluation of the equipment that is there, their view of what it is. They'll also provide a valuation of the equipment to tell us what it's worth. There were some changes made to the truck that came from the United States. Some equipment's been added since it got here. So it likely wouldn't be fair to say it was just the purchase price because there have been more done to it. So they're going to provide an evaluation on that. I spoke to the Swan River Fire Chief at length about how he really doesn't need a new $1 million fire truck. He is slightly hesitant, but surprisingly close to on board with that. Swan River is due to replace a fire pumper at present. They have a borrowing bylaw to borrow $1 million for a pumper. The thought process is that our pumper is everything they need it to be and could likely be used in place of that $1 million pumper, which would represent savings to the valley as a whole and certainly savings to us in the Swan River when we operate together on fire protection. So that is continuing on. That is some of the discussion we'll be having with their council at Shared Services to talk about that further. But at the moment, the fire departments are working out what they think a good idea would be. I asked them not to remove things from Thunder West because we as council haven't given our blessing to that yet. However, last night a recommendation did come forward, and you'll recall that we had given our blessing to taking masks from Thunder West to Bonito. and then that didn't work out as well as we had hoped, and we ended up buying new masks anyway. Bonito currently has turnout gear, some sets of which are expired. So under our workplace health and safety rules, we are not to use that turnout gear, but because there is no other turnout gear, we've been using it anyway. If they go to a fire and are injured at a fire in turnout gear that is expired, that is council's responsibility, to the tune of being fined by workplace health and safety. The recommendation of the Swan River Fire Chief was that we find out what sizes of turnout gear we have in Bonito and what sizes we have in Thunder West, obviously, and see if any of the Thunder West turnout gear could be used in Bonito, so we don't have people attending fires currently in expired gear. They also point out the turnout gear we have here is not all brand new. Some of it was purchased used, but old but unused. So some of it does not have the full life expectancy of it. So while you would think, oh gee, it's all good for 10 years, some of it actually isn't, because some of what was bought was made previously, and each piece of it has a sticker in it that indicates the year of manufacture when it expires. So some of it is aged a couple of years already, even though that department's only a few months old. So that's something for council to consider. I would certainly, I'll ask you that question in a moment. I also asked for both fire chiefs' view of the fire department as it sat there. I received their input and the input of the firefighters that toured it. They all universally expressed that they did not feel safe with the equipment that was in the building responding to structure fires. They felt there was not appropriate equipment on the trucks, there was not enough hose. They indicated that they would not be willing to respond to structure fires with that equipment as it sat. They indicated that there were issues with some of the nozzles. There were nozzles that were known to not be appropriate and that had been purchased anyway because they were cheaper. And they essentially said rather loudly, this just wasn't ready. They toured the building, they saw the amount of things that aren't done in the building. For example, the camera system, the cameras are in, but they never got finished. The kitchen sink is laying there, but it's not actually in the kitchen. The counters aren't finished, the plumbing isn't finished, the heating isn't finished, the floor heat isn't finished. There's substantial cracking already to the pad in the fire hall, which could be somewhat related to the fact there's no floor heat there. And when the building was built, no frost shielding was put in because it wasn't designed as a heated building. So the frost is likely ingressing under the pad at this point. So certainly we'll continue work to get that floor heating going as soon as we can to limit damage from that. There seems to be some water leakage coming in from the front doors. There's some maintenance issues we need to discuss in camera with that building, of what was found when we got there last night and finally were able to actually get in. It was a bit of a process to access the fire hall, but some of that is best in camera. Overall, I don't have any big asks tonight for Thunder West other than what is the view of council. Would it be permissible for some of that turnout gear to go to Bonito if it's needed? And I should mention that even though I gave instructions to not remove equipment, Chief Osachuk, after he left, said, by the way, let me get it from him, there was a hose washer, which is a piece that looks like this. They borrowed it to test to see if it fits the hoses or not, to see which kind of thread it is, so they didn't keep it, but they've taken it out of the building to look at it. And there is a box of straps that I think they coveted, would be the best way to describe it, and felt that they really had to have those straps. So while we certainly said please don't remove things, a few straps were removed just so that we're completely open with what happened last night. What's the view of council? Thoughts, comments, questions? What do we feel about that turnout gear? Would be okay if someone went to Bonito?
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty obvious Thunder West isn't gonna use it. Right?
I would say that's accurate, unfortunately. From what they were indicating last night, we talked here that we were a couple $100,000 away from a working fire department. They're agreeing with that it's just, stuff just isn't there. There's not enough things there, there's not enough stuff there. The building isn't finished. The good news, they actually think the building is quite nice. There's a plan likely to be presented for that building to be repurposed as a fire hall, to use in addition to or in replacement some of the Swan River one. The training area is better. There's several features of the building they actually like better than what they have now for Swan River. And they think that a plan could be struck where we keep that as a fire hall and call it Fire Hall 2. Keep a water storage tanker in there so there's 3,000 gallons of water. Keep the seasonal equipment that's out of season. So the boat, the snowmobiles, the grass fire truck that's really only good 3 seasons. They're coming together on a plan. I was surprised how well they were working together on a plan and figuring things out and drawing pictures and talking to each other. There's some good stuff there. I don't know that the future holds Thunder West operating independently again without spending a couple $100,000 of more onto it than we have already. I don't know that we'll find support.
Well, I don't think there's enough votes at this table to continue it.
But there is also other options to use that building for other things than a fire hall too, that are needed over there. Just to say, something to talk
Put the heated
about.
shop for ourselves,
Something to talk about later, new office,
new office.
yeah.
This,
Something to think about anyway, not just thinking
This,
about, if it's not gonna be what it was supposed to be,
It's $1 million fire.
utilize it towards the
The $1
municipality.
million
Yeah.
fire truck that the town wants to buy. I know they were after this council in 2021, 2022, somewhere there. They wanted roughly 31 to 35% of the cost of it because that's how many calls are in the RM. So you're talking $330,000 roughly.
Which is about what it's worth, roughly, for the one we have.
That's what I mean. Well,
What, I'd like to bring a resolution forward then for the turnout gear.
well, we can't have our guys in Benito
No.
running around in inappropriate
Yeah.
underwear, whatever. I mean, they gotta be protected. And we gotta be covered for liability.
My birthday in the first place.
Be it resolved that council approve the transfer of, do I write turnout gear, do I write required equipment, what's the will of council?
They're gonna have first shot at going through that to what they need.
I would suggest that would be appropriate.
I'd say whatever's required, in my opinion. They
And
need
I think
masks.
anything Benito needs, we should be
If they need
getting
masks.
Benito what they need.
I think so.
Like, we own the thing, it's not, we're borrowing it from somebody else.
They're our fire department
Yeah.
and that's our stuff, so. Required.
Be resolved that council approve the transfer of required equipment from the Thunder West Fire Department to the Benito Fire Department. Any changes to that? Is that something we find suitable?
Transfers of which?
Of required equipment from the Thunder West Fire
Required.
Department to Benito Fire Department.
Let her fly.
Okay, is there a mover? Councillor Burick, does someone wish to second it? Councillor Zbirun. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 9.7, Benito Fire Department training. It is the belief of many of us that this is already covered by existing policy. Benito Fire Department isn't so sure. This resolution provides that we approve for joint training with Swan River. Specifically, what's important here is that we would pay the mileage of the firefighters to Swan River. They feel we're not willing to pay it. We think we do anyway, but we want to clarify it for them. The fire chiefs both indicated last night that they prefer things clearly in writing so there's no gray area. So the resolution's point here is that we would pay their mileage to get to Swan River if they go to training. Be it resolved that the Benito Fire Department be approved for joint training with the Swan River Fire Department, and that council further approve the payment of expenses to firefighters related to training, including mileage. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor McGregor. Any discussion on the resolution?
They're already paid so much an hour, right?
Sorry?
They get paid so much an hour,
Yes, they
right?
do.
So they get paid for training now?
They do.
They're just, the mileage was the question.
The mileage is the
Okay.
question.
Okay.
And that's, if mileage is all it costs to get more training, pay the bill.
Yeah.
And if they're doing it together, even better.
Yeah. Any further discussion on the resolution? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Moving to 9.8, this is discussion only, unless you guys have the big checkbook with you. Manitoba Fire Department, the hall. We've had it flagged for several years for structural concerns. When they received the new truck, they had to move the back wall. When they did that, they found out there was really nothing holding the building up. Subsequent to that, we've received an order from Workplace Health and Safety to remediate a mold issue that has been found in the fire hall. At current, the mold issue is, what's been found is probably manageable. What it likely means, if we remediate it properly, could be quite disastrous. The building is molding on the roof above the new fire truck. The area of mold that's there would probably be described under Workplace Health and Safety as small, which is 1 square meter or smaller, which we can remediate fairly easily. The trouble that's causing it is the air circulation change from the new truck, but also there's some concern that it may be the tip of the iceberg given the shape of the building. That if we remediate too hard, we may find what would be called a large mold problem, which would require substantial remediation and cost. So we're going to proceed on to remediate the small area, but this is the warning that things are not well with the Manitoba Fire Hall at all. And Councillor Kushniryk can probably speak a little bit to that because fire halls are near and dear to his heart.
Are you talking about replacement or?
I would love for you to share your replacement plans with council so they can be scared as I am.
So, part of this you have to understand, we would need somebody with, I guess, the engineering aspect to look at it. But obviously we need to have a plan to replace this fire hall. I've mentioned it in the past at LUD meetings and such. I think a prime location to place the new fire hall would be attached to the current town office. There's the empty lot that you're familiar with next door.
Oh, come on.
There's plenty of space there. You could wrap around in an L shape in behind the building, eliminate the old bay where the original fire hall was. You could have one bay facing out towards Reno Foods, couple towards Main. You'd have your town office. You've already got meeting rooms, you've already got bathrooms. You could put a mezzanine upstairs, tons of potential for it. The concern is whether or not that building structurally could be added onto like that. So somebody would have to pursue that.
You mean the village
There's not
office?
enough bathrooms, it has one.
Well, you can renovate that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're building,
You would take everything off the east side, up to the back alley,
Yeah.
and just leave the village office sitting there, is that what you mean?
it would depend on the engineers, how they draw it up, because
Yeah.
there is a bay there
It's probably not.
on the east side, but it's not much. I don't know if there's anything salvageable there.
I
or
would
not.
say you keep the front end of the village office and the council chambers and
I
nothing
think
else.
so.
Everything else is gone.
I think so too. You have that, and you wrap a new L around it.
Yeah.
The east side of the L would replace the existing bay, and you could go higher to put a mezzanine up there.
What would
Give
you
a
put
roof.
on the north side of the office then?
That would be your main bay for the main trucks, right? Because the north side towards the school, it's quite spacious there. Some time ago, I'd gone there with the former fire chief and looked at space and everything else.
You find any $100 bills under a rock? They're mine.
Oh, I can't say. I won't tell you what we found.
I should, all
Weeds.
joking aside, Councillor Neely, Public Works asked me to mention to you that they saved the sign.
I know,
Are they ever-
Bill told me one day I was there, I can't even read it anymore, but anyway.
Yeah.
But, I was there with the public safety, or safety and health, whatever you call it. And you can't even get in the passenger door in a $500,000 truck without opening the overhead door out front. You can't get around that truck, they had to cut a hole in the wall, for those of you who haven't been there or don't know about it, I guess you all have been, but They added 4 feet or 5 feet on the east side so they could back the truck in.
And if you have a snow buildup outside the door, you won't get out without rubbing. So
Yeah.
if it happens to snow and Public Works hasn't cleared it yet and you get a fire call that night,
Yeah,
you're
you
probably
go-
gonna have some repairs.
Rip something off the top of the
Yeah.
truck. But I was talking about it earlier, was these reserve accounts, you know. If there's some, like with the lead reserves, I was just thinking, you know, it's the fire department's part Bonito, part rural, right? I mean,
We've actually discussed, once we see how everything unfolds, there is federal gas tax in Benito that would be eligible to put towards a fire hall.
yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And would the LED
Talking
be
about
willing?
earlier.
I do believe the LED would be willing. Like I say, we'll see how our budget unfolds this year and the service plan for Benito and everything.
Because it does look after roughly half of the rural area for us, right? Maybe not quite half, but close to it, if not half.
Yeah.
And then the village of Bonito. So, I mean, it's gonna have to be some kind of a joint venture, that's for darn sure. Between the LUD and the
I'm
rural.
very open with the LED as them putting towards their federal gas tax. It has to be allocated somewhere
Yep.
going forward,
Yep.
right? I'm not open to saying that they are,
He's not
that it's
open-
mandatory, because you have surrounding area around Swan River, Kenville, those places didn't have to specifically contribute to Thunder West. It wasn't done that way. So we're on the same page, it's just a wording. I don't think that the
Well,
LED is
one formula you could use is look at the history of the calls over the last 5 to 10 years and say, okay, 60% used by rural, 40% was in the village, or
When
90-10 or whatever.
No, the reality of the calls is 100% were used in Swan Valley West.
Yes.
We're one municipality, we don't have a village.
No, but I'm just thinking as far
I
as
know.
contribution to
Yeah,
capital
I don't wanna
here.
fight to break out.
No, I'm not, I'm not fighting, I'm just putting some things out there to think about. Stuff to think about, you know.
Okay, so should we nudge a few people to see what they think there are for options? Talk to a few people that kind of have some knowledge and see if they have a plan for what we could do, would that be appropriate?
We have to do something.
I believe we do too. I don't think we can, and you know, our hands may be forced in how soon we do something. If that has a substantial mold infestation of workplace health and safety, deems that building uninhabitable, we've got substantial problems very quickly.
Would we be able to use the sale of, say, the fire truck to help us out with the fire hall?
Council can do almost anything it wishes. That's the power of a council.
That money that was put into Thunder West, the majority of it came from the,
If only we could
Gas
move the
tax
Thunder West
reserve.
building over there. It
Yeah.
would be
so
ideal,
any
right?
money recouped from that would have to also go back into reserves or into a facility or a structure or something that's also considered gas tax related, right?
Which it would be.
Not exactly.
No, I mean, you can't go and buy a new grader if you sell a fire truck out there and you use gas tax money for it.
It wouldn't be sporting, but that's not what the rules say.
Moving right along.
I'm just saying, that's the way I
Because we're opening a big can of worms
What-
here.
That's the way I understand it's for infrastructure plus fire. That's
Yes.
all you can use that gas tax money for.
What the rules specifically say is if you buy a fire truck in year one, and in year two that fire truck is surplus and you sell it, that's your money.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought there was some kind of thing where you had.
We certainly should. We should respect the spirit of it, and the spirit would be that it's gas.
I mean, if we were to sell something from Thunder West, it should go into Bonito.
Rural water update 9/9.
Feel.
Good news to share on this. We heard last time about the mice. We even viewed some photos of the mice. They are very active mice. They had come back again to nest again. They have been expelled at current. Public Works is aware of some work that needs to be done in the spring to keep the mice from returning, but at this time the rural water well is working. The parts were replaced, the wiring was done. We haven't seen the bill yet, but it will show up anytime now and you'll find out just what those mice cost. But the well is working.
A heated cat house would work perfectly there. Just saying. With a calico cat inside of it.
9:10, Employee Code of Conduct and Organizational Flowchart Review. So there's two things here, one of them simpler than the other. One is the use of municipal equipment by staff. So we just wish to remind everybody here that our current code of conduct, I'm trying to find the section here to read it to you. Specifically, it tells us, sorry, it's coming.
Right here.
Outside work or business activities. Employees are committed to ensuring the municipality's success in delivering services to citizens effectively and efficiently and must act in the best interest of the municipality as a whole. Employees must ensure they avoid any outside employment or business activities that directly interfere with the performance of their duties, in which the employee has an advantage or appears to have an advantage as a result of their employment with the municipality, that will or might appear to influence or affect the employee in carrying out their municipal duties, that requires or involves use of municipal property or assets that is contrary to the interests of the municipality. So that is in there already. I know there were some questions on that, so that is there. And use of municipal property and assets. Municipal property and assets belong to the community as a whole and must only be used by an employee to perform work directly related to the municipal duties and responsibilities or for community activities as determined and authorized by council. Personal use of municipal property, equipment, or assets by an employee are not permitted. Municipal property, equipment, and assets in the care of an employee must be protected and kept secure at all times. We can discuss in camera further if you want to know why we're bringing that up tonight, but that is what our policy states currently, so there's no changes required to policy on that. Also in this policy, in the beginning of it, is the flow chart of employees, and some concerns have come up. Flow chart currently provides Reeve and council at the top, which then communicate with the chief administrative officer. We're good so far. The problem is lead hand urban public works does not report to the chief administrative officer. They report to lead hand rural public works. It has been the view of this council as of late that those two lead hand positions are essentially equal. They just work in different portions of the municipality, and that both should report to the chief administrative officer, not one lead hand to the other, which creates a foreman position. And we don't have a foreman, we have two lead hands. So I want some discussion tonight briefly. If it would be appropriate for us to present a new organizational flow chart that shows both lead hands reporting to the chief administrative officer instead of one to the other. Is everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that will come forward at a future meeting, hopefully soon, with a new employee flow chart to approve. 9:11, review accessibility plan. A black draft plan is presented here for 2022. It's for your information. Have a chance to read over it. There's not much for us to speak on tonight on this. It will come to a future meeting. This is mostly for information. 9:12, mutual aid plan. 3 documents presented here. What is mutual aid? That's from the provincial website. The 2005 mutual aid plan, which is kind of an interesting read, and the draft of the new mutual aid plan. Council was provided a written draft of this a month or 2 ago. We've uploaded it into the system so you can find it easier in case anyone for some reason didn't read the lengthy document. You have an opportunity to do it now. This will no doubt be discussed likely at the G4, 7, 8, 12, whatever we call that meeting now. It will come up and we will no doubt at some point enter into a new mutual aid plan. Likely not until the plan is cooked on fire departments, so we don't rewrite it in a few months anyway. But that's sort of what's there. My understanding is that the valley chiefs from all the fire departments have met and reviewed that draft plan and feel it is appropriate. So that is their recommendations, but councils will no doubt wordsmith some of it. 9:13, public meeting in Benito. There's a resolution to come with this one. We have committed that we were going to share information on the water system. We haven't yet done that. We should. The thought has been that perhaps a public meeting would be a good way to be able to answer questions and have the public view that we are there and be responsive. The resolution is to discuss water and the LUD service plan. The proposed meeting date of January 23rd is after the LUD meeting. I have indicated to the LUD committee that we would like to see their service plan finalized at their next meeting because we are moving on in the budgeting process. We will not let this drag out this year. So they should have a cooked plan by then. We are not required to hold a public meeting on the LUD service plan. This would be a courtesy to do it, but I would see us inviting the LUD members so they could speak on their plan to the folks of Benito. I would certainly speak on the water, talk about the treatment process that was changed in the water, and also talk about where we are with the water rates, why the water bills are changing, and what we're doing about it. The proposed date is Monday, January 23rd. I know we have a couple councillors who are not available that day.
But like you said, not everybody.
There's no requirement that everybody has to be there. It isn't a public hearing. This isn't a required hearing. This is a meeting. What's the view of the council? Is it okay to proceed without a couple? And are the rest willing to come and be there that night and answer questions? Certainly, well, as much as we can tell the people the topics of the meeting, there's a good chance some questions will come out of the far corners of the municipality too, but we'll just try our best to get through those, because to me, anytime we put ourselves in front of the public and let them speak to us is a good thing. Is there general agreement to hold a public meeting? Given the timelines, we would be able to advertise it in the paper, but I would also recommend we do a flyer to the Benito mailboxes. It's fairly cheap to do. That gives the date and time of the meeting, just to make sure that anyone that doesn't receive the paper also sees it. I'm going to read the resolution then. Be it resolved that council will host a public meeting in Benito at 7 p.m. on Monday, January 23rd, 2023 to discuss water and the LED service plan, and that the LED members be invited to attend as panel members. Is there a mover? By Councillor McGregor, seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor?
Where would it be held? The hall?
Probably the Legion Hall.
Yeah, I
I
was
think would be
thinking.
the appropriate size.
Council
venue.
chamber, a little small
Oh,
probably.
That's too small.
Yeah.
I have no correspondence. I don't have anything under unfinished business. We move then to committee reports. Let's go in reverse order tonight. We'll start with Councillor Burick.
Didn't attend any.
Okay. Councillor Neely.
Nothing this time.
Councillor Blosha.
Well, I don't have any committee reports. I had lots of calls, which we dealt with as a team, I would believe, and also started my training on health and safety. Anybody else? Just checking. Just checking. You have to do all the
I didn't
stuff
hear
they
anything.
sign. Oh, she sent it all to you.
Another copy.
16 hours of
I'll show you it, yeah. Well, there's some glitches there. I gotta get some help.
Who sent it to me? Like
Deborah. I sent email, but never got, like, 'cause there's some that I can't do because it keeps kicking me off. So, is that something we'll discuss later?
In more ways than you could imagine.
Okay, thank you. I need, yeah. So I've started the courses. I've finished one, started trying to do 2 more, but they keep kicking us out, so I'll need some help.
Councillor McGregor. Councillor Kushniryk.
All I have is the LED committee, which was prior to last meeting. It was brief, not super formal, mostly about the service plan coming up, and that's about it.
Councillor Zbirun.
Rink meeting last night. Talked bounce field, workers, catering, entertainment, fees.
Good.
Called it a night.
Perfect. I have a verbal report. I met with Don Bobick and Jared, the lead hand for rural, sorry. That was the meeting we had referred to at the last meeting, the January 5th meeting. The majority of my report for that needs to be in camera tonight as a personnel matter, but we did meet. I also met with Brent Gray, I indicated that earlier. I was at Thunder West last night. I've indicated the public portions of that already as well. I don't believe there's anything else. Most of the other things need to go in camera as HR. Councillor Burick asked that we give some consideration to having a round table for council to discuss questions and such. And this is committee reports on communications, so I wanted to open it up. Councillor Burick or anybody else, questions for each other, things you want to discuss that maybe wasn't a committee report. Do a little round table session here before we move on. If anybody wants to bring anything up, you're welcome to do it. Obviously, we're not in camera. If there's in-camera items, please save them. We'll get to that in a minute.
We used to call it councillor's privileges when I was on council before. So I mean, just as we used to go around the table, if there's anything you have to bring up, you bring it up in your discussion. If not, you just go around, pass, and that's it. But, yeah, no, it's, I don't know, there was one thing that I had on my mind was, we discussed at council at one time about putting lights on the intersections of 49 and 83, and number 10 and 279. I was wondering if we could address that again, send highways a request on the cost. I believe at that time they sent us an estimate. Was it the cost was too high or what?
It was huge, yeah.
But if we could maybe approach it again, maybe they could split 50-50 or something like that, or just, but it's on a 49 and 83. There's a stop sign there with a flashing light, but it's not a lit intersection. And same thing with 279 and number 10 north.
But that's not a lit light there.
There's no lit light there, there's nothing. And a lot of people, they go down at night, they want to go down that and they miss it. There's a little sign on the side that says 279, but I mean, it's just a little wee white sign. But if it was a lit intersection, it would be a lot. But I mean, if we could address that.
Okay, we will have administration note it down and we'll prepare a letter.
Yeah. And another thing I was gonna ask too,
Durban as well.
who's our backhoe operators now?
The position's currently vacant.
Do you think we should advertise? Like, I mean, it is early, but I mean, we probably should have somebody beginning of March, don't you think? To service equipment and start cleaning ditches end of March, maybe?
I have a report from Mr. Bobick,
Okay.
with a recommendation
Okay.
for
That's good.
one possible solution to that.
Okay, because I was just wondering, like, if we don't have it, we should have one. Like, I mean, don't advertise too late, you should advertise early where they can make a change in where they're previously working or whatever, but
Okay.
like I say, end of March is usually when you used to clean out ditches, and you have to probably service the equipment before you get going too, so probably beginning of March should be ready.
Anybody else with anything?
I'm just,
Question I got asked last night was, and I didn't know this, but we used to sponsor the doctor coming to Benito before COVID,
We did.
and they were wondering whether that could be happening again.
It's still, it's always in the budget.
It hasn't
Okay.
stopped.
It's always in the budget,
So-
it's them not coming to us, so
There's
it's,
no
it
doctor.
definitely, yeah, it definitely would be something we would
It's like
all agree.
There was
on.
concerns like 80, 90-year-olds going all the way to Swan just for a simple blood test, when they could be getting it done in Benito.
I think it was mostly COVID that killed it and then lack of doctors.
Well, and I
So
don't
now
know
they've
if
got
the
numbers back
blood
up.
collection service would come back, that was done by like a health nurse.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would come back, but maybe the once a week doctor could, but that has to be.
Well, the one that
in
asked me,
discussions
the
again.
one, Carrie, the one that asked me was actually the one that used to take the blood, and she said she would be more than willing to come back and
Well, that would be nice,
So let's have administration note that we will investigate
yeah.
what it will take to return the service.
Okay.
Because it was budgeted for this year.
yeah,
It wasn't us that said no.
okay.
I think there was a lack of doctors last time.
Yeah.
You could contact, Lisa Lukey and Megan Gray.
Those
Yeah.
are the ones I've always contacted.
Yeah,
for
those who
that,
you
yeah.
should contact.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else do you have?
I was just further to Brian with the lit intersections. Are you talking fully lit or would you be happy with the bright flashing red light on the stop
No,
signs?
well, don't they have a
Yeah,
flashing
the-
red light sign on there now or nothing?
No,
Nothing.
I thought there used to be one or no?
It's on the other end of
Priestville end has
49.
it.
No, I mean one that's lit all night. Like one of those, like, at any intersection we have.
Big
You have one
light.
probably in 83 and,
Just a street light over top.
yeah, that's what I mean, lit all the time, so people, they know half a mile away that there's
Yeah,
a light up there instead of, this way, somebody driving from Benito, you don't know where that turnoff is until you're right there, right? Yeah.
Anything else? Thankfully, with the moment, I remember something I was supposed to share with you. Now, I've never seen councilors get excited like they do when you show them a map. This particular map shows prior and proposed grade arrays. Public Works and, well, Mr. Bobick specifically has been proposing new grader areas. This could be viewed later on, but it shows the changes. It basically restores the service areas to what they used to be prior to the trial that was supposed to last for a few weeks but went on for several years. So it has the general agreement of the operators. I asked Mr. Bobick if he felt he needed a resolution on this tonight. He said he didn't, but for information, this is what the considerations are to make some changes to those areas for where the snow plows and then of course the graders operate. So So that's your information.
Really?
Not really, but if they think that it makes it more efficient, then so be it.
Yeah.
Like, they're the ones who run the equipment, not us. We want it the most efficient it can be.
Now, is the view of council that a change like this can simply transpire in public works without our input?
Exactly.
Or do you wish, you're fine, thank you.
Yeah.
We won't worry about resolutions for that. I do have, I just want to check my speaking notes for Mr. Bobick for a moment. I believe some of it could probably be brought out into the open. He indicated that work has begun on the gravel plan for this spring. He's recommending some roads will need 150 yards a mile because they just simply don't have enough gravel. Some will be able to be the 100. He's working on that. He's looking at where they are as far as theoretical haul for the cheapest possible routes. He has been speaking to some people about possible gravel purchases of already crushed gravel. He indicates that we are likely short 25,000 yards for the spring gravel application, and there isn't quite yet a fully cooked plan for how to get that in time to apply it this year, but negotiations are ongoing. He spoke about school buses. He's hoping that we are supportive of a solution where school bus drivers speak to the bus garage supervisor rather than calling us directly, and then the bus garage supervisor would speak to our office. So he's asked that we kind of think that through and make sure we're okay with it, and we'll work to have that happen. He is going to work through inventory of pipes, grader blades, and mower blades. We discussed spraying of trees and ditches in the initial stages of figuring out what that would take to be able to do, what's legally available, what would the cost be. He indicated that he wishes to see a small gravel stockpile brought back to the Swan yard, but that'll be a spring thing. He also asked to share with council that Cooks will begin crushing for us next week. Towards that shortfall we have, they will be working. And Sarah Lake Road, he has begun having meetings on that. We've provided him the engineer's plans. He indicates that the engineer's plans was in cubic meters. When that's converted to yards, the answer is 5,500 yards of material to be moved, 30 rolls of blankets, and between 200 and 300 yards of topsoil we'll need to locate for the project. He will be working through the permitting process and the engineering process. We've tasked him with babysitting that project to get it done. There is apparently an unpaid bill with it. Besides our fines, we're also billed for stumpage and such. We haven't paid that bill. It's going to be sent to accounts payable shortly, so it can come forward to the next meeting for payment. They are unable to issue us a permit for this until we pay the bill. The 25th of January is when I appear in court for the tickets to try and have them lowered. Worst case scenario, we'll have to just end up paying them as well. But that's the portions of his report I can share. The rest of it we'll take to in camera. If there's nothing else from anyone, we are going to adjourn for 10 minutes. When we return, we'll be moving in camera. Thank you, Meredith, on the phone. It's been nice having you tonight. And Bob, if you're still there as well, it's been nice having you along. We're going to say good evening to you and good evening to our videographer, and we'll return in camera shortly. Thanks, everybody. So we're back from our break. During the break, we did receive the Public Works report, so I'm going to go through it very quickly before we go on camera. This is from Mr. Carrie. He reports his accomplishments: cat grader fixed to back up and running. Guy successfully managed with 2 graders to finish roads after last snow dump. All snow gear for down deer fixed and ready to go with grader ready. Fully staffed grader crew. Current priorities: put the fire to Timbricks to get deer fixed. Looks like a lot longer than planned. Look at getting Cat 170 in for major 5,000 hour service booked when it works. Hiring a full-time grader op, branches here for winter season only. Create better system for maintenance of not only equipment but shop tools as well. Upcoming projects, nothing at this time. I would suggest questions to that are going in camera because it's already on the list to discuss a couple of those items. We'll move to 13.1 in camera. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523 of the Municipal Act, Council should meet as a committee of the whole, close the meeting, and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters and negotiations, preliminary discussions, security of RM documents and property. And move it, please. Moved by Councillor Kushniryk, seconded by Councillor Burick, Any discussion on that? That will call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, welcome back to the meeting. We are moving to 13.3, resolutions arising from in-camera discussions. Item 13.3.1, Assistant CAO. Resolved that the council present an offer to Deeper Burick for the position of Assistant CAO as discussed, and that should it be accepted, council hire Deeper Burick. Burick?
Yeah.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Blosha, a second please. Councillor Burick. Any discussion on the resolution? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 13.3.2, water operator training. Be resolved that Daniel Rabchuk be approved for training for the video utility and that his course fees and expenses be paid as per council policy. Is there a mover for the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, second by Councillor Neely. Any discussion on the resolution? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. There may notice as a motion tonight, gentlemen, ladies. If not, before we entertain the adjournment, is there any further business of council, seeing how we haven't hit curfew yet? Going once, going twice. Be it resolved that this meeting shall now adjourn at 10:30 p.m. Be it further resolved that next meeting is Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha. Is there someone to second the resolution? Councillor Neely. Any discussion? We'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you everyone for leaving.
Carrie.